Hello, my name is Zach, and I am the Bibliographic Services Specialist at RSA. Today, we will be going over the matching an OCLC record to your video or sound recording cheat sheet that can be found on the RSA support site. You can find it by going to the Cataloging Handbook, looking in the How to Catalog and Workflow section in the Contents menu, and then clicking on the section titled Matching. The cheat sheet lays out the fields necessary to check in an OCLC record to compare to your video recording in order to determine whether you should attach to it. We'll be using the information from the cheat sheet to compare a DVD with a record found in workflows, and we'll pay special attention to the most important fields to check. The DVD we'll be using is Friday Night Lights, the fifth and final season. I found this record in workflows using the UPC in the general field in the call number and item maintenance wizard, and I think it may be a match for our DVD. By using the Matching an OCLC record to your video or sound recording cheat sheet, we'll go over the key fields to determine if this record is a match for our DVD. The first field we'll look for is the 040 field. The 040 field contains the cataloging source, the organization that created the original record, assigned the mark content designation, transcribed the record into machine-readable form, and/or modified an existing mark record. A DLC in this field means that the Library of Congress was the cataloging source for that record. You'll want to use a record created by the Library of Congress whenever it's possible. However, it's not a requirement, as the Library of Congress typically does not make records for video recordings. And as you can see, this record was created by Midwest Tape, which is indicated by the TEFMT code in the 040 field. The 040 field contains more information that is necessary to check in order to determine if you should attach to it, particularly in the subfield B. The subfield B in the 040 field indicates the language of the record. It may or may not be present on the record, but if it is present, the subfield B should contain ENG. This indicates that certain fields on the record, such as the physical description in the 300 field, will appear in English. The subfield B in this record does contain ENG, so we know that this record is in English. If you're unable to find an English language record that matches your DVD, please create a brief record following the instructions found in the Creating a Brief Record Guide on the RSA support site. The next field to look for is the 020 field, which contains the ISBN. This field may or may not be present on the record, and most likely will not be, as most video recordings don't have ISBNs. Some do, but most don't. This item does not have an ISBN, and the record does not have an 020 field, which is to be expected. So the next field to look for is the 024 field. This field may or may not be present on the record, but if it is, it will contain the UPC associated with the DVD. When comparing a record with your DVD, check the back of the video's recording container for the 12-digit UPC number located beneath a scannable barcode. Here, we can see the UPC on the back of the DVD container. So looking back to our record, we can see the 024 field lists the same UPC number. While it is far more common to find a UPC on a video recording than an ISBN, it should not be the only field considered when deciding whether to attach to a record. The next field to look for is the 028 field. This field may or may not be present on the record. Check for a variable length of letters and numbers printed on the surface of the disc or container, including the spine. So if we look at the container of our DVD, we can find various numbers on the back and the spine. Then, if we look back to our record in workflows, we'll see the matching numbers in the 028 fields. Keep in mind that publisher number should not be the only field considered when looking for a matching record for your DVD. The next field to look for is the 245 field. The 245 field contains the title and should always be present on the record. Compare the title on the record to the title printed on the surface of the disk and not on the container unless there is no title on the disk. So if we look at the first disk, we can see the title listed as Friday Night Lights, the fifth and final season. Then if we look back to our record, we can see the title listed as Friday Night Lights with the fifth and final season listed in the subfield N. The next field to look for is the 264 field. This field may or may not be present on the record, and there may also be several 264 fields on a record. The 264 field details the publication information. Be sure to look at the indicators for this field, especially the second indicator, as it specifies the type of information described by that 264 field. A second indicator of 0 indicates production information. A 1 indicates publication information. A 2 indicates distribution information. A 3 indicates manufacturer information. And a 4 indicates a copyright notice date. So, if we look at the first disk, we can see the publisher listed as Universal Studios, located in Universal City, California, with a copyright date of 2011. Then, if we look back at the record and workflows, we can see two 264 fields. The first 264 field has a second indicator of 1, meaning that it notes the publication information. It lists the place of publication as Universal City, California, and the subfield B lists the same name of the publisher as Universal Studios. The subfield C lists the date of publication as 2011. The second 264 field has a second indicator of 4, meaning it notes the copyright notice year, which lists it as 2011. All this information matches what we saw on the disk. The next field to look for is the 300 field, which contains the physical description of the item. This field should always be present on the record. Compare the number of disks in your item to the number on the record. Our item has 3 disks, so we want a record that reflects that in the 300 field. So if we look in the 300 field in the record that we found in workflows, we can see that the 300 field lists 3 video disks. Next, we'll look for more information that can be found in the 300 field. If we look on the DVD's container, we see that it lists the runtime as approximately 9 hours and 22 minutes. Looking back to the 300 field in the record, we can see that the runtime is also listed as approximately 9 hours and 22 minutes. The next field to look for may or may not be present on the record, and that is the 338 field. The 338 field indicates carrier type, which is the physical format of the resource. Because we are looking for a record for a DVD, we are looking for a 338 field with the carrier type code video disk, with a corresponding VD code in the subfield B. So if we look at the record, we can see that it does have a 338 field that does list video as the carrier type, along with the VD code in the subfield B. Next, we'll want to scroll further down in the record to look for the next fields. We'll look for the 347 field, which may or may not be present. The 347 field, or fields, may contain lots of information describing the digital file characteristics of the DVD, such as the file type, encoding format, and regional encoding. If we look at the back of the DVD's container, we can see this little symbol, which means it's a Region 1 DVD, which means it is a DVD that has been manufactured to work in US DVD players. So if we look back in the record, we can see there are 3 347 fields that say that this item is a Region 1 DVD video file, which matches our item. The next field may or may not be present on the record. The 505 field contains the contents notes. Check this field to verify the episodes, film titles, or bonus content that match your item. Our record does have a 505 field that lists the episode titles included in the 5th season of Friday Night Lights. The next field to look for is the 538 field, which lists the system details notes. This field may or may not be present on the record, but it is an important one to look for. Compare the 538 field to your video recording to verify that the record describes a DVD or Blu-ray format. In this case, we're looking for a DVD. The 538 field also contains other details that are helpful but not required to compare to your item, such as the widescreen or full screen aspect ratio. If we go back to the back of the container of our item, we can see a lot of technical details that may be present in a 538 field. So we'll want to go check our workflows record. And we can see the 538 field lists that it's a DVD format, region 1, widescreen with the 1.78 to 1 aspect ratio, Dolby Digital 5.1 surround sound, dual-layer, and TSC, which all match the codes that we saw on the back of our item. Next, we'll look for the 546 field. This field may or may not be present on the record, but will indicate the language of the dialogue. Once again, we'll go back to the back of the container to see that the language is listed as English. And if we look to the 546 field in the record, we'll see it also lists English dialogue. To see the last few fields we'll want to check for, we'll need to scroll further down in the record. We'll now want to look for the 6XX fields, which will typically be 650 or 651s. These fields may or may not be present on the record, but if they are subject headings. Subject headings indicate what the video is about. We can see that our record has quite a few subject headings, including 650s like football players, football teams, high school students, athletes, as well as 651 field for Texas, which is where the show famously takes place. These are all things that the show is about. Next. They are the genre headings. Genre headings indicate what kind of video the item is, not what it is about. We can see in the record several 655 fields that describe what kind of video the item is. It is a television series, a television melodrama. It is a television adaptation, as it was based off a book. It is a sports program, sports being football, and a teen, being high school, television program. These are all headings that describe what the video is, rather than what it is about. So, based on all of the key match points laid out in the cheat sheet, we can confidently determine that this record is a good match for our DVD. At this point, you would want to attach your item to this record, assign it a call number, item ID, and cataloging codes according to your library's procedures. Thank you for watching this informational video on matching an OCLC record to a DVD. If you have any questions about OCLC records, determining if a record is a match for your video recording, or if you need any further assistance cataloging DVDs and workflows, please contact the RSA Help Desk at help@librariesofrsa.org or call 866-940-4083, and one of our catalogers would be happy to help you and provide further guidance. Thank you.